Next, I want to show you the art room. For overnight hosts who arrive, oftentimes you will see one of our volunteers, Sarah, who has used this space to create some wonderful art projects with our guests, and they just love doing it. In addition to the art projects that are created here, there are some other very important features to this room that I wanted to show you. First of all, this is where we keep a number of our extra supplies. So in this file cabinet, we will have all kinds of extra sets of sheets. This is important because oftentimes, as you can imagine, particularly with little kids, there are accidents that happen and they need a new set of sheets. So this is where you can come to find them. Particularly in the winter months, guests get cold and they ask for extra blankets. If that's the case, just come over to this closet, open it up, and inside you will find all kinds of extra blankets. There's a bin here that says Family Promise towels, if extra towels are needed. This is also where some extra mattresses are kept. And I wanted to explain, sometimes the mattresses have what we call a failure. And that's the case where there might be some damage to the mattress, and even with extra pumping, it just does not stay inflated. If that happens, the most important thing to know is that you need to send that damaged mattress in the van the next morning as the guests return to the Crafton house. And you need to notify the Crafton house that a damaged mattress is coming, because they will send a new mattress that can be used the next evening. So that's important to note. And it's all explained in the reference manual that you'll find up in the chapel as well. Another thing while we're over in this corner of the room, we have an emergency landline phone. If you need to make an emergency call and you don't have a cell phone or there is no cell coverage for some reason, simply pick up the receiver, press one of the three buttons that have the phone numbers indicated on them, dial 1, and then whatever phone number you would like to make, and you will be connected. Another important thing to be aware of is our first aid kits. Over in this corner we have a couple of first aid kits. One has over-the-counter medicines in it, so you'll find things like Tylenol and Advil. We have some children's Tylenol, we have Pepto-Bismol, there's a thermometer, some Pedialyte, some Imodium. If a guest asks you for an Advil or a Tylenol, you should come and get it, and then they should administer it to their children or themselves. Another thing you'll find in here are Band-Aids and various wraps in case there's a little cut or something that happens on the playground. We're also set up for that. In the case of a true emergency, it's important to note that you should call 911. And another thing that is really important is that even though we are so close to St. Clair Hospital, it is a Family Promise rule that we do not transport guests to the hospital. So an ambulance needs to be called, or 911, and then you should immediately follow that up with a phone call to the Family Promise staff person who is on call for that evening to let them know what has taken place. Lastly, I want to mention just a couple of things in terms of being an overnight host. In the morning, it's really important that the van leaves on time, because oftentimes that's connected to people leaving for work and people leaving for school, and you don't want people to be late. So one of the most important things as an overnight host is to make sure that the families are up and ready for that van departure. Typically during the weekday, the van leaves Bower Hill at 6 in the morning. Oftentimes on the weekend, that's relaxed a little bit and the van tends to leave at 7 in the morning. So it's important to let the guests know what time the van leaves. And then what I do as an overnight host is I start going around to the rooms about 20 minutes before the van is set to depart, and just listen to make sure I hear people up and about. If not, I tap on the door and just say, hey, just want to make sure you're up because the van will be leaving in about 20 minutes. This isn't always the most comfortable thing to do, and sometimes you might be greeted with not a real pleasant smile, but it's really important that the people are up, the guests are up and they're on the van, and that the van departs on time. Overall, I think it's a wonderful experience. I've thoroughly enjoyed interacting with the guests, and I hope that you would have a good experience as an overnight host as well.